Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us on the Catholic Talk Show. It's Ryan Delacrosse, Ryan Shield, and Father Rich. How you guys doing?
Awesome.
Good.
Ryan, Padre.
All right.
Ryan.
Rich.
Wow.
All right. So thanks for listening. If you want to check us out in different options for the podcast, you got YouTube, Stitcher, Twitter, Facebook. It's all on our website. You
Twitter?
Twitter.
The Twitters.
Facebooks.
We're everywhere.
It's on the interwebs.
Yeah, go to CatholicTalkShow.com and you can find your preferred method for watching or listening and subscribe.
That's
really
right.
appreciate it.
Today we're talking about the craziest Pope stories you've never heard of.
There's some crazy stories out there about popes.
I know.
I can't wait to get into a few of these.
I know.
Yeah, so
Yeah. I mean, it kind of just speaks on its own. Crazy Pope stories.
yeah, in the
I
history,
want to hear more about crazy popes.
there's been a lot of popes. There's been a lot of good ones. There's been a lot of bad popes too.
Oh, yeah.
And I think any Catholic that won't admit that doesn't quite understand, number one, the role of the papacy, and number two, the history of the church. And there's a cardinal who famously said that Napoleon had invaded Rome and said, "We're going to destroy the church." And this cardinal said, "Napoleon, if the bishops and the popes haven't been able to do it in the last 2,000 years, you're not going to be able to either."
Amen to that. It's very true.
So, some of the things that we're going to talk about that happened with popes, we're going to talk about the reason why that there's elephant bones buried underneath Vatican City and how that helped kick off the Protestant Reformation.
That's just a crazy story. That's weird.
That is weird.
How does elephant bones do something?
That's right. And we're going to talk about another thing about bones.
Was it in the construction process? I can't wait to get into this.
We're going to talk about
Why
another
do we
thing.
always talk about bones on this show?
Catholicism,
It's like
man.
every time we talk, it's about something about bones.
Catholic talk show, man. That's what happens. Well, speaking of bones, we're going to talk about the time that a pope dug up the bones of the pope prior to him, his cadaver, and put it on trial for heresy.
Yes.
I can't wait to hear about that. Yeah.
We're going to talk about why popes actually changed their name and the story that led to that.
You mean popes in plural? They changed their name?
Well, our current pontiff, Pope Francis, he wasn't born and baptized Francis. He was Jorge Mario Bergoglio.
Yeah.
Caravotilla, and all these other.
No. I thought they changed it after they changed it the first time.
No.
Okay. All right. Then that's not
keep up,
crazy.
Ryan, keep
That's not
up.
crazy. I know about this.
Hello.
Go ahead.
We're going to talk about why the election process of the Pope is called a conclave and the kind of crazy story that led up to that name being adopted and the whole process becoming what it is. And then we're also going to talk about the only man who was actually elected Pope twice. So stick with us throughout this. This is a Catholic talk show, and we're going to get into it.
Yeah.
Muy interesante.
Yeah. From high above Hollywood in the Cast Media Studios on a kind of hazy day, but I think it's perfect. Perfect environment to talk about how some of the crazy
things.
I don't know. Can we bleep things?
Bleep. Do we have a bleep button?
Yeah. The crazy
Bleep.
popes have done.
They just got that.
That's right.
They just got the bleep button.
Really?
Yeah, they were celebrating.
So now we've got a heresy button. We got a bleep button. We got a brilliant button.
We have a brilliant button?
Yeah.
We just haven't hit it yet.
We just haven't hit it yet.
Oh, okay.
There was one moment when Ryan Shield was speaking on
we got
another
close.
episode. It was like I was close.
But not there. Sorry.
No bueno.
Forgive me, Father.
No bueno. All right.
Let's jump in.
Elephant bones.
Elephant bones.
Here we go.
So the Pope, obviously, he was, the most important, both, religious and political person, throughout most of the history of the Western civilization. And obviously, when a new Pope was elected, the political leaders would want to curry favor of the new Pope. So they would send him all sorts of gifts, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Not gifts.
I haven't sent him anything.
They sent him a GIF?
Yeah,
Or a
they
gift?
texted him a gift.
They texted him a gift.
Emoji?
Yeah, emoji.
Emoji.
A GIF.
A GIF.
A GIF.
Which you hit the heresy button. For anyone who says GIF out there, anathema, officially heresy.
Anathema sit.
So,
Anathema GIF.
you'd expect if, elephants are not native to the Italian peninsula.
No.
And you would expect that if you're digging up bones of elephant, it may be from, the Carthaginian invasion where Hannibal marched
That's what I was thinking.
elephants like an absolute madman over the Alps.
I was thinking like the obelisk, right? Because the obelisk in the middle of St. Peter's Square that baby's got to be heavy, or like the construction process of the church.
Yeah, like the elephants were pulling it up.
Yeah, because you need some elephant power.
And then they died, and then there was the bones.
Ryan, have you ever had an experience in life where you're like, I need some elephant power?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Actually, I rate my car on elephant power. Most people use horsepower. Yeah. But, you know, I want cars to be rated on elephant power.
Now, you can pull some heavy weight.
Yeah, that's right.
An elephant-powered truck.
So you guys know that the Protestant Reformation, it was, you know, pretty much a, you know, Martin Luther.
Contentious times.
And the Pope of the time was Pope Leo X.
Mm-hmm.
Pope Leo was right, by the way.
He's my man.
Yeah, he was right. Anyone out there who says that Pope Leo wasn't right, fight me.
Hey, I named my son back. Leo.
Yeah, that's Leo. Right. Leo's a bruiser, dude.
He's great.
Yeah, he's a great kid.
So, Giovanni di Lorenzo de' Medici, he became elected Pope.
Oh, Medici family.
Yeah, Medici.
Oh, yeah.
He was elected Pope Leo X. And as was custom, all the kings, the Catholic kings of Europe, were sending him gifts. Now, this is right around the time that the exploration of the New World was opening up, right? And it was very important for the warring, well, not warring, but the competing nations and kingdoms to really get, you know, the favor of the Pope, so that he would back their claims to these different areas they were exploring. You know, whether it was in South America or the Far East, or in the, you know, the Indies, or in North America. And the two main exploratory powers at the time were Spain and Portugal. And the King of Portugal really wanted to blow Leo X away and give him the awesomest gift ever. And at the time, you know, this was really before, you know, there's no interwebs, there's no internet. You couldn't even look up.
What?
Yeah.
No interwebs back then?
No.
Jeez.
Yeah. So
we're talking a long time ago.
So exotic spices, exotic animals, these things were very, very highly regarded. Really cool, right?
Yeah. I think they're still cool.
Yeah, me too.
Especially spices from India. Ooh, baby.
That's right. Well, now it's interesting because Portugal actually was colonizing India, right? And for the spice trade. And to get more papal backing for their activities and for their routes, and to get, you know, license to do that, the King of Portugal actually got from India an elephant and gave that to the coronation as a coronation gift to Pope Leo X.
Yeah. I mean, it's an elephant. Where's he going to put it?
Now, in another episode, we've got horses go inside of the Vatican, inside of St. Peter's.
I wonder, like a farmhouse right now.
What did he do with that elephant?
Just cruising around the, you know, papal gardens, stomping things all
Via
over.
Conciliazione, you know, just riding on an elephant, giving his papal blessing.
Well, that's right. Yeah, but, you know, the people of the time, so when Leo X got this elephant was causing havoc, right? It was stomping it all over the place. But
of course,
Pope Leo loved this elephant. He even named it. It was called Hanno. That was the name of the elephant. He loved it. And he even had Michelangelo sketch this elephant. There's a sketch done by Michelangelo of an elephant, of the elephant of Pope Leo X. And for Michelangelo, this was, you know, he really has studied anatomy and, you know, drawing. And to see an elephant in person, this was a big deal for him too. It was a big deal in Italy. It's like, wow, there's an elephant. This is like the opening of, you know, the Avengers. This is a big, you know,
fish out of water.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, you know, the Pope, he built a special building for the elephant. Right, and he would allow the people of Rome to come and visit the elephant every week, and thus
the birth of circus.
Yeah, I was about to say
the Pope would allow like famous artists or whatever as an honor to ride Hanno the elephant through the streets of Rome in parades on top of the elephant as a real sign of honor, and at one point the elephant got a little crazy and was smashing vendors and stuff like that. It was pretty nuts. So it was really became a joke that the Pope really loved this elephant too much. And then one of Martin Luther's first attacks on the papacy before he even nailed his 95 Theses to the church was that he was criticizing the Pope for how much he loved this elephant and how much it was a sign of the extravagance of the Catholic Church. No, listen, Marty Luther, it's an elephant. It's cool. You're just stodgy, right?
Let's see how you act, Martin Luther,
Yeah,
when
you're
you're
just
given
mad
an
because
elephant.
Yeah, if
don't
Martin
have an
Luther had an
elephant.
elephant, he'd be like, I've got an elephant on Martin Luther, right? But you don't, so you have to, nail stuff around. Sour grapes, dude. We get it.
If you're wondering for a birthday gift for me, by the way, if you're out there, I kind of would like an elephant. That would be kind of cool.
It's going to be tough to put in the elevator here at the Cast Media office.
We'll just bring it to Houston and put it in your backyard.
There you go.
So Leo, really loved this elephant, but an elephant in Italy is probably not going to do too well, especially with the zoological services of the time. So in 1516, Hanno started getting pretty sick, and he was having a hard time breathing. And the doctors at the time, being what they were, they prescribed
Asthma medication?
Robitussin.
Well, they figured
Put
that
some tussin on it.
Robitussin DM.
no, they figured that he was
decongestant?
they figured that he was constipated.
Oh, man.
So of course, what everyone knows, for a constipated elephant, the only medicine is gold.
Of course.
They gave him a suppository of gold.
Huh.
That's right. It was a very common treatment at the time. So if you were very wealthy, they would stick,
Yeah.
gold.
I get it.
right there.
That's, yeah.
Well, didn't work. The elephant died pretty quick.
Gold poisoning.
Gold poisoning. Yeah, I mean,
That's the
Good job,
side
science.
effects include.
that's right.
Now, was the guy who gave the suppository to the elephant excommunicated? Was this an offense to the person of the Holy Father?
Yeah.
I don't know, but the Holy Father did. He wrote a poem about the death of the elephant.
He's a little overboard on that.
He had a mural made commemorating the elephant, and he even had parts of the bones of the elephant shipped around to his favorite bishops, almost like relics. Now, this is maybe a little bit overboard, a little bit
8
weird.
days of mourning.
That's
an
right.
octave of mourning.
That must have been like the first time he probably didn't even know what an elephant was. He probably saw it. He's like, whoa.
Oh, yeah.
So, but
Either that or he was crazy or both.
though one of the things that's pretty crazy is that there was another reformer in the church, an anonymous Franciscan monk, who didn't like what was going on, some of the corruption, and he traveled with 20,000 followers to Rome and he prophesied the death of bishops, cardinals, the Pope, and the elephant. He even prophesied the death of the elephant, and sure enough, the elephant died, and that didn't make the Pope too happy.
So he prophesied that the elephant would die from a suppository?
I don't think he got
The
that
word
specific.
of the Lord spoke to me.
A golden suppository shall enter the elephant's
Offices.
But yeah,
and
so
he shall fall into utter peril.
so yeah, but they they buried him with a great ceremony, and
Oh my gosh.
They were-
Do
they
we
were-
have a death ritual for elephants now because of that?
yeah. So in 1962, they were digging in this particular courtyard in Vatican City because they were installing new heating and cooling, and they found the bones of an elephant, and they're
some
like
gold.
and some gold, and it's
There's some gold in that elephant.
There's gold in them there elephants. Wow. So yeah,
Sick.
so yeah, but all this kind of extravagance around the elephant was kind of the first thing that really got Marty Luther all all itchy. So
Yeah. That's funny. The bones of the elephant.
that's right.
I just can't get over a golden suppository.
Yeah.
I mean, we should run,
I
like
wouldn't
a
have want
line
to
of that.
administer that. That's
No,
just
yeah.
somebody's got
Especially in an elephant.
Can you imagine being there for that blowout?
Oh,
man?
for heaven's sake.
Jeez.
Well, it
That's
didn't
an
work.
elephant.
It didn't work, so there probably wasn't a blowout.
Poor constipated elephant. Poor thing.
Yeah. So
Sad.
that's that
Hanno?
story. That's Hannah the elephant.
All right. Hanno, may you rest in peace, and elephant.
He's no longer constipated.
That's
Yeah.
right. In the great unconstipated rainbow bridge of elephant heaven, where the streets are lined with gold
And unicorns.
and unicorns on Father Rich's chalice.
I
wonder-
need to include an elephant on my chalice.
We talk a lot about
Father Rich, if you ever become Pope, I think you should use the elephant as your papal crest.
Yeah.
A golden elephant.
Never shall we see the day.
What's next?
How can you top that?
Yeah, there's not really a smooth segue.
No, there isn't a
really
smooth
not.
segue from that.
This is it, man. It's just a
Well, do you guys
poor
want to
guy.
talk about the time that a Pope dug up his predecessor's body and put him on
Yes,
trial?
definitely.
Yes.
All right.
That is bizarre.
Now, this is one of
He
the...
must have been really mad at him.
Oh, yeah.
Mad at his dead body.
Yeah, so Stephen the Sixth, not necessarily a great guy. He was Pope, 987. 987. And this whole scenario it's pretty infamous, with historians, and it's called the Sonata Surrender, or that's in Latin, but it's known as the Cadaver Synod, where they dug up the Pope, the previous
All the
Pope.
bishops?
No,
Okay.
Pope Stephen VI ordered the exhumation of Pope Formosus and stood him on trial for heresy.
What was the heresy that he was on trial for?
So there's a lot of warring factions as to who would control the papacy, right? And
Infighting.
right. So
Doesn't happen anymore.
Never.
Pope Formosus's predecessor was Pope John VIII, and he was from the same faction as Pope Stephen. Now, when Pope Formosus was elected upon the death of Pope John, basically Stephen lost his power, right? And he was exiled. And that faction had won the papacy. So when then subsequently Formosus died, the other faction won and got their guy back in power, Pope Stephen VI. So to kind of curb the effect of the papacy of Pope Formosus and all the episcopal nominations that he had made and all the bishops that he had made that would, I guess, further solidify the political standing of that particular sect,
Yeah.
Stephen, the one way to basically nullify those bishops and their power was to say that their ordinations and their consecrations were invalid. And the only way to do that would be to say that Formosus was heretical, therefore it nullified his actions. So it was really a political place. So Pope Stephen.
A weird one.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Wow. I'm just picturing him with a spade shovel with a cope on, just digging him up, ready to just lay down the law.
Right.
Where we put that guy?
He's somewhere around here.
Somewhere around. He's over by the elephant. Go get him.
So they dug up Pope Formosus. They dressed him in full papal regalia, rings, mitre, copa, everything, right?
Wow.
Smelly. Smelly scent.
Yeah, could you
Yeah.
imagine the scent?
Yeah, probably not great. And they put him on the chair, and then they had a full trial,
There's probably a lot of incense during that trial.
I would hope.
So who represented this guy?
Did he have any advocacy?
I don't know.
What did he say on the stand?
I don't imagine it was a very fair trial. I don't think that the transparency and the rule of law was really in Stephen's mind.
Yeah.
So obviously, I mean, it was close, but they found him guilty.
It was close. Darn it.
So then when they found him guilty, what they did is they ordered
He
that.
really, laid out a killer argument. But I mean, it was
Yeah.
He nearly died up there.
So they found him guilty. Then Stephen VI ordered that he was stripped of his papal vestments. They cut off the 3 fingers that the Pope would use to do his blessings. They cut him off.
Wow.
That's just wrong.
Lord have mercy.
And then
Anger.
And then importantly,
Anger.
to Stephen VI, they formally invalidated all of his papal acts, which is really what he was going for. Then they declared him null and void. And then they said, bury him not in a Catholic or a papal graveyard. Bury him in one of the graveyards meant for foreign travelers of different faiths as another insult. But then he thought it wasn't good enough, so he dug him up again a second time, had weights tied to him, and threw him in the Tiber River.
He's sleeping with the fishes. Joey Fabrizioni did that for him.
That'll teach him.
That'll teach you.
Hey, Vinny Boobas, go get the millstone.
Tell the Bishop of Forto that Formosa sleeps with the fishes.
That is just weird.
Oh, it's weird
Man.
stuff. So what
That's
happened is
just
that,
weird.
well,
Makes me want to be Catholic.
that's right.
Well, I think about
So,
our popes in history, like that we grew up with, from JP2
Yeah.
to Pope Benedict
Yeah.
to now Pope Francis. There's like a consistency, and thank God,
Right.
that
That's
through
true.
this lineage, they all appreciate one another. They all affirm their work in the world.
The hermeneutic of continuity.
The hermeneutic of continuity.
Herman?
You know?
Yeah.
Who's hermeneutics?
That was in I think 3rd year seminary, which you didn't make.
You didn't
I know
make it
what
that far.
hermeneutics. I know what hermeneutics is.
But to interpret the movement of the Spirit in the church, which is a good active hermeneutic of a continuity that's shared between pope to pope to pope, that there are clear gifts and talents that God has placed within these popes, and they're continuing the service in a consistent manner to the people and governing, the Holy Roman Catholic Church. It's Fascinating.
Yeah, I think in recent years there really hasn't been any like crazy popes.
There's not much papal beef going on these
Right.
days.
No, yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's not like the Avignon papacy or something.
Yeah.
Like, you know, yeah, it's
They moved him back from France or something to Rome, right?
Yeah.
Is that,
Yeah, the Avignon papacy or the Avignon, the Babylonian papacy. So anyway, there's kind of some justice in this story. So when they dug him up and they tied weights to him and they threw him in the Tiber, eventually his body broke free of the weights and washed up on the shores, where a group of nuns found him, recognized him, washed him, cleaned him, redressed him in papal regalia, and buried him. And
sweet nuns to the
how
rescue.
beautiful.
Then-
Thank God for nuns.
then
Yeah,
people
right.
started reporting miracles around where his body washed up and at his grave. And everyone said, wow, this is of God. This was a good man. And the population of Rome really turned against Stephen VI.
Whoa. Backfired.
That's right.
God don't play.
He was deposed. He was imprisoned. And while he was in prison, he was strangled to death.
Whoa.
That's right. So then
What a
following...
story.
Violence begets violence, man.
Right. So
That's
then the two
crazy.
subsequent popes, Theodore and John IX, they convened their own synod, which officially reversed the findings of the Cadaver Synod and cleared Formosis's name.
Stephen just wasn't a nice guy.
I really wouldn't want to be in the same
How did
room
he
with
get
them.
voted? Did they vote for the Cardinals? Vote for
Yeah, but
popes?
you know, back then there was only 10 to 12 cardinals.
Gotcha.
And depending on who was in power, whether it was the Orsini family or the Medicis or whoever, or whoever had the backing of this emperor or this
some
king.
political
it was-
influence.
That's right.
Which doesn't exist now in the church.
When the Papal States no longer was a thing in 1870 and we really became more of a spiritual entity and no longer had the trappings of temporal
Right.
power, I definitely think that it's brought in a lot of fresh air for the popes, and you don't have stories where they're digging each other up because the King of France and the Bishop of Bulgaria are disagreeing, so let's dig up a pope. It's kind of unseemly.
It's like a soap opera,
That's right. It's a pope opera.
Pope opera. You heard it
Got a
here
great-
first.
Yeah, we've got a great idea for a show.
That's right.
The Pope operas.
Yeah, you guys can write a pope opera about the Cadaver Synod. I mean,
Yeah.
that would do great on Broadway, I think, right?
Yeah. God bless those
Man,
nuns.
what a
huh?
musical. Oh, man.
Nuns are
Thank
sweet. I
God
love
for
nuns.
religious communities of women. Where would we be without them? Oh, my goodness.
Breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, talking about bad popes, do you want to talk about another bad pope?
Of course.
If you like now. So, did you know there's actually been one pope who was pope more than twice?
No, I did not know.
Yeah, more than once. Pope Benedict IX.
And 10th?
No, no. If you look at the official registry of the popes, that even list anti-popes, he's not the 10th, but he's always the 9th. So this was a bad guy, and he was elected to. He was also the youngest pope ever elected.
What year is this?
This is 1032. So not too long after the Cadaver Synod. This is a pretty messed up time.
It's about 100 years there.
Yeah, a lot of historians called that the pornocracy, which it was so obscene, some of the things that were going on. It was such a bad period that, there's really not a good pope among the whole lot, about 100-year period.
Wow.
And that a lot of the great reformers that would happen not too long after kind of were inspired by how terrible the situation had gotten in Rome.
Creates a vacuum.
So yeah, Pope Benedict IX was the only pope to be elected twice and the youngest pope ever elected. You know how old he was?
26.
Guessing like in his 30s.
11.
11
Oh,
years
11.
old.
Gosh.
Wow.
That's just crazy.
Yeah.
How old is Joe now?
9.
9, so he's getting there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was born
close.
he was born Theophylactylus of Tusculum. That was his baptismal name. And because of, again, power struggles and different factions, he was elected the Pope at 11 years old. Now, the funny thing is that they said that in his theology, he was actually excellent in theology and incredibly orthodox. But his lifestyle was so bad and he was so corrupt that the kind of scandalous lifestyle he led of affairs and intrigue and murder and everything, he was deposed, right? And then
At what age was
They're
he?
just like, look, man, you
in
need to
1044.
1044.
you need
Yeah.
to put away the peanut butter. You're eating too much of this stuff.
You need to be moderate, Holy Father.
So they deposed.
Stop smacking your mother.
So he's like 24 and he's deposed. So as a 24-year-old would do, he left for like 4 months, and then Pope Sylvester III was elected. But then Benedict IX got a little bit bored, or I don't know what 24-year-olds do when they're former popes. It's kind of downhill from there. So he raised an army, and in the spring of 1045, he went and marched in Rome and deposed Sylvester III and retook the papacy for the second time.
Wow.
What a goonball.
Yeah.
Okay, but then once he got it, he was like, well, after a month, he's like, you know what I want to do? I want to get married. So what he did, his godfather,
That
John,
just gets better.
so his godfather,
This guy.
his godfather, a man named John Gratian, was a very rich man. And he said to him, he's like, hey, godfather, I got an offer for you. You can't refuse. Do you want to buy the papacy from me? And he hit the seat of St. Peter to his godfather, who became Pope Gregory VI.
Was he a bad guy too? Because he kind of buyed it.
If you're listening in, my face right now is just like shocked.
And if you're watching,
whoa. I can't believe that.
that's right.
That's crazy.
Yeah. The desperation of these people.
So the second episode on our new series called Pope Opera will be covering these stories.
Are there
Fascinating.
Are there any good crazy stories?
So
I want something wholesome, man.
I mean, the elephant was okay.
Yeah, the elephant was.
So
yeah.
then, but here's the thing. So then, after getting bored and kind of burning through all of his,
He picked his teeth with the elephant bone of his toe.
so after he burnt through all that Godfather money that he sold the papacy for,
Godfather money.
and finding out that
What you know about that Godfather money?
marriage wasn't really that great either for him, he decided to become pope for a third time.
No way.
And he led another army against his godfather and deposed him. So he became pope for the third time.
You know what this kid is? He's a spoiled brat.
Right.
That's what he is.
So then what
He
happened?
needs a
though,
good spanking.
But everyone said,
Put that
no,
peanut
you
butter.
actually, there was a proper election of Gregory VI, your godfather. He's still pope. But the pope that he deposed before the pope that he deposed, Sylvester III, said, no, I'm still pope. So at that moment in 1047, there was 3 popes, all claiming to be pope and all having pretty legitimate, although pretty.
This sounds like a middle school fight in the yard. Fight for power.
Golly, man.
Man, oh man.
That's just
But anyway, so eventually there was the German army sent by the Holy Roman Emperor came down and said, get this stuff sorted out. Because we can't have 3 popes. Can't have it. It's
people are
bad.
confused. They're
People are
asking me
confused.
questions. I don't know what to say.
So he was
Get it together.
So he was deposed, excommunicated, on the charges of simony, and he was sent to live in an abbey for the rest of his life, where he had to do repentance. And eventually,
How old was he at
and
that
then
point?
he broke out, and then he got an army, and then he hurt people.
no, he did live the rest of his days. And
How old was he when he went to the abbey?
It's 1048 when he went, or 1056 is when
He was
he
like
died.
60 or whatever.
He died in 1056, and he first became pope in 1032 at 11. So he's like 40-ish.
40.
Wow.
What a
How
life.
would you have the restraint to do that?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it seems like the guy just went after whatever he wanted.
Talk about being led by an appetitive desire. Like everything that guy had an appetite for, he followed.
Right.
And, you know, the appetite
chaos
for
that it
power.
creates.
And it didn't matter who was in his way. He just bulldozed him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you know, for all the people listening or watching, when, you know, Pope Francis makes a little change to a catechism or puts a footnote in the document, be thankful that you're not living during the papacy of Benedict IX, because it could be a lot worse.
And his real name is Theophilact.
Theophylactus of Tusculum.
And if you're trying to figure out a name for your child because you're pregnant,
Don't do Theophylacticum.
don't ever do it.
No,
No, that's not a good
gonna-
picture.
You don't want that juju.
He's going to be the seed of Chucky. We're going to be the Pope.
Wow.
Talk about trying to discipline that kid. Oh my gosh.
So, yeah, so,
I
you
should
know,
be happy and grateful.
Yeah,
too.
you should.
you know, if you want to talk about, you know, name changes and not wanting Theophylactus as your name, I think that's a good time to talk about why popes actually do change their name.
I think it's because they kind of have it's kind of like, I don't know, confirmation. You have a confirmation saint name. Is that how that's?
Not really. I mean, even the bishops now will tell you that if you have the current name of a saint, that you shouldn't, in today's world, when you're getting confirmed, change it.
I'm of the mindset, I think we should have patrons, and the discernment process of our inner identity and the charism that God has given us, we should really relate that somehow in the tradition of our faith. And for me, I chose St. Valentine as my confirmation saint because I was so moved by...
Because you're a lover?
I am a lover. I'm a lover, not a fighter. I am Italian. You got to remember that. Well, in part, it was like I really like the ladies. When I was a middle eighth grade kid, I'm like, just awestruck.
St. Valentine.
So I'm like, yeah, man, the girls are like this, So I chose St. Valentine. But what really struck me was actually his story, that he was willing to give of his life to defend the dignity of marriage and be thrown to the lions. And like, it just struck me, man, watching that movie. And there was only a few times because I was just like a little wild child in that CCD class. Yeah. But, it was really striking and moving. And it spoke to me. So, when it comes to, names and people throughout history, saints that have lived these remarkable lives, we should grow in an affection for them and a constant petitioning to them so that they could be our examples, of how we ought to live our lives. And I certainly don't want to live my life like Theo, whatever. What is it?
Theophlacticum.
Theophlactus of Tusculum.
Theophlactus. Oh, yeah.
You can say it 10 times to me and I still won't get it right.
I try to say it one more time.
Theophlactum.
Yeah, great. Sorry.
You nailed it. And you see it also in them naming, because you had Pope Paul the sixth, right? You had John Paul the first, and then he passed away. It was like almost a month or whatever, right? And then
John Paul the second, days or something like that. 36
John Paul the second was like, I'm in your footsteps, and
he
I respect you.
admired John Paul the first so much. Yeah, so there's admiration there, and I think Jesus naming Peter also kind of begins this practice in a way.
Well, I mean, even if you look to the Old Testament, you see that when a person's life really changes, from Abram to Abraham, or
Saul to Paul,
or Israel, they're a new man, and their new name reflects their new identity. But that's not the reason the popes do it.
Yeah.
Talk to us, Ryan Shield. I'm ready to smack a brilliant button here.
Right. So.
Brilliant.
There you go. Pope John II was the first pope to change his name. So his birth name, he was an Italian, and his birth name was Mercurius. And when he was elected, he didn't think that it was really quite right for the Pope to have the name of a pagan god. Pope Mercury it didn't really fit. So the Pope a few before him was Pope John I, and he had been martyred, and not wanting to have a pagan or a pagano name.
He just went there.
I know he did.
I did.
We're not even at the Inquisition point.
That's
You're already
right.
bringing it to me.
I know. Right at you, Padre.
Do you know what pagano, what it comes from in the Latin? And what it means?
No.
It comes from pagnus, which is a person who lived in the countryside. So basically like a redneck, somebody who lived in the fields and worked and tilled the ground. And so basically like an Italian redneck.
Right.
So the word pagano comes from pagnus, which is Latin for this person that dwells on the outskirts of the city. When Christianity was spreading, it primarily went to metropolitan cities, and it spread from there. So the paganos or the pagnus were the people that lived on the outskirts that had not received the message of salvation and the gospel. So that's where the name actually comes from.
So you were pagans.
Yeah.
Just kind of, it's kind of happenstance.
Hello.
Do you know where Della Croce comes from?
Of the cross?
Yeah. My ancestors were left in front of a church. The church took care of them.
Yeah.
Of the cross. Yeah.
Della Croce.
Very common thing.
Yeah.
All right, what were we talking about?
So we're talking about Pope John II changing his name because his birth name was Mercurius.
Yeah. I would want to change my name if my name was Mercurius.
Right. He didn't want to become the Pope with the name of a pagan god.
I kind of like it when you think about like closest to the sun.
All right.
Mercury.
Yeah, but I think it was still a little bit fresher in their mind, the association with pagan gods at the time. So it's probably
I'm a
less.
Pagano. That's probably why
yeah,
I like it.
Yeah, you're defending it. You're like, no, it's a great name. My name is Mercurius Pagano from now on.
Heresy button.
Call me Mercurio.
So he was the first pope to change his name, but then for about 400 years after, no one changed their name as well. And they went back to taking their birth name because they were all, typically Christian names. But then there was a cardinal elected in 983, again, right around that area. His name was Pietro Canapanova. And he didn't want to become Pope Peter II because he thought that was, not good, right? So he took on the name of Pope John XIV, right? So, there have been 12 Johns since then. And then his successor, when Pope John XIV died, was Giovanni di Alba, so John. Mm-hmm. So he took his name as John XV. Following that, they started taking their own names and following along and changing their name. And a lot of times during that time, right after that period, there was a lot of German popes that had come from the Holy Roman Empire in Germany. And being the Bishop of Rome, they didn't want to come in with a very Germanic-sounding name, so they also changed their name. So that kind of led to the tradition of popes changing their names.
Interesting. Not the way we were thinking.
No.
The last pope who kept his name when he was elected was in 1555, Pope Marcellus II. He was
Marcellus.
What a cool name, though, yeah.
Yeah, he was born Marcello Cervini delle Spanocchi.
I grew up with a guy named Marcello, really good soccer player, great guy. Marcello, I like that name.
I might name my son Marcello in November.
Praise
talk
God,
to my
dude,
wife
that's a
about
great
that.
name.
I like it.
Jennifer, go with it. I love that name.
Do it, Jennifer.
If I could baptize the baby, I'd love to baptize.
You know what she wants to name him?
Who?
Dominic.
Dominic?
Yeah.
Dominic's better, I think.
No.
Marcellus.
Marcello.
No, but then you got Vinny and Leo.
Marcellus.
Yeah, I like that.
It's a cool name.
Well, real quick, so as far as here's a little stats on papal names. Until Pope Francis, there had not been a new papal name in 900 since the year 918. He was the first pope to have a original papal name since 918. There's been the most common name is obviously Pope John, and out of all the popes, there's only been 44 that have unique papal names.
I was with the late Bishop Lessard. You remember Bishop Lessard from the seminary.
Yeah.
Wonderful man, filled with joy. And I had the great privilege of going to check on him before the election. The white smoke was coming up in the air and the Holy Father's elected. So I went over and I said, Bishop Lessard, everybody's going to be meeting in the gathering space of the auditorium to see who's elected. You should come. It would be great to have you there. And he looked at me, and he's an elderly man, and he said, Pagano, shut up and sit down. So I sat down with him. And it was beautiful because I was his gardener for 4 years in the seminary, and I took care of all of his plants and his property. And as he was getting older, I was taking care of him a little bit, and it was a joy for me. And I would fertilize all of his, rose bushes. But there was this one stubborn rose bush. After a couple of years of fertilizing, the baby wasn't producing anything. So I just stopped fertilizing it altogether. It was all mangled, and there wasn't really any green leaves on it. I never dug it up, so I just left it there. Do you know that day when Pope Francis was announced was also the day that I was called to priesthood formally by my bishop in a written letter. Wow. It was an awesome moment of solidarity in that experience. But what was awesome was as I was walking outside before the election, I looked down at that little mangled bush, and there was one red rose that came out of that baby. Wow. So I clipped it, put it in a cup of water, and then I put it next to the TV, and we sat there and watched. And when he was named Francis, when he took the name Francis, Bishop Lessard was a third order Franciscan. And he was buried in the habit. He's since passed away, and he just had a great love for St. Francis. And he just started weeping. Wow. It was one of the most moving experiences of my life.
That's amazing that a guy that elderly still has this deep, strong connection, with God. Yeah. Even after all those years, it just never got stale.
No.
Amazing.
He emanated joy, Bishop Lessard.
Yeah, a good sense of humor
guy,
too.
Great sense of humor.
So that's actually a great segue, talking about the election of Pope Francis and the conclave that, brought him about.
We did that on purpose.
Did you? That's excellent.
No, I'm completely
never-
being
No,
random.
you-
Yeah, we're both like
No, you
so
two guys are
random.
over there just, going random, and I'm trying to like figure out how to keep it together.
Keep it together, Shield.
Yeah, I know. So,
Brilliant.
so he was elected in a conclave. Do you know why it's called a conclave, Padre?
Conclave.
That's right.
With the keys.
With the keys. Now, why is it called a conclave?
Because they locked the
That's right.
Cardinals inside of the room.
That's right. When I asked you earlier, you're like, well, it's because of the keys of St. Peter. And I think that's a nice way. That's a nice story to tell the kids, but it's really not quite that simple. So,
Or glorious.
right. Yeah.
We have to lock these guys in a room.
So in the papal election of 1268, there was again, go figure, warring factions as to who would be the next pope. There's different, there's different, I guess, parties backing different candidates, and they were all backed by very powerful, kings or secular powers. And it went on where they couldn't come to an agreement because there was not back then. I mean, how many cardinals are there now? 150?
I don't have no idea. Like
A lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
More
So what you're
cardinals than you
saying
can
is
stake a
these,
stake
these
a
guys
stick
were
at.
going at it. They couldn't come to
Right.
a resolution or a pope.
So it went from 1268 until following the death of Pope Clement the fourth, and it was the longest papal election in history. It went on until 1271. It was a 3-year interregnum. So finally,
Boring.
aburrido.
well, it's not good to not have a pope for 3 years in the church. Kind of need that.
Yeah.
Could you imagine being a cardinal?
You know what it
and then,
reminds me of is like our government, like our federal government, how they're always fighting against each other, and they never get anything done. Some people say.
Yeah, it was basically a fight between the French and the Italian cardinals, and they couldn't come up with a candidate that would be fine. So what they did is the secular powers locked the cardinals in a room, in a decaying kind of a basilica that it was kind of fallen out of use, in the really hot August Italian weather. Locked the doors and tore off the roof and said, "We're not unlocking the doors until you guys elect a pope."
That's a
That'll get it
standoff.
done.
That's a standoff.
Let's get it
right.
done here,
It's
people.
official. So that's where the keys come.
That's
come
right,
from.
because they were put under lock to
Now
say,
you
"Make
know.
up your mind."
Now you know, Father Rich.
Yep, and that was the election of Pope Gregory X.
Wow. All right, so we got an Inquisition question.
Oh, we do.
Oh,
do?
great.
Oh, yeah.
I've been backing him for the last few episodes. I'm just gonna sit and watch now.
Really?
Yeah, because I was kind of thinking.
Because you just want to see my head chopped off in the guillotine.
yeah, but you've been doing good.
Trying,
Not bad.
man.
Not bad.
All right, let's see here. Let's go with a canonical question
Ooh.
on marriage.
Ooh.
Okay.
Do I get lifelines or is it just me?
Give me your phone.
No lifelines. All right. A couple is validly married, and their marriage is valid. There's no questions about the validity. One of the spouses gets into, I don't know, maybe some kind of trouble, and they're put in the witness protection program, and it is assumed by all parties that they are dead. Or maybe they get crashed onto a remote desert island, and they're written off as dead. The remaining spouse enters into another.
And the spouse doesn't know.
The spouse doesn't
Has
know.
no clue.
I think there was a movie about that.
The remaining spouse.
Called Castaway.
yeah.
I don't think that was a Catholic movie. It was good.
No, but it's the same situation.
So, okay, so let's do
gonna
it.
start
Tom
making you
Hanks.
cry.
Tom Hanks was in a valid marriage. He gets
With
cast.
the volleyball?
He gets.
I think his name was. What was his name?
I don't remember.
I think it had a name.
It did have a name.
Wilson.
Wilson.
Wilson. All right.
Yeah, Wilson.
So Tom Hanks is in a valid Catholic marriage. He gets cast away on an island. He's presumed dead, and his wife, as in the movie, moves on with her life and marries the dentist,
Who's also a Catholic.
who's also a Catholic, and they enter into another valid Catholic marriage.
Shout out to Catholic dentists, by
Right.
the way. Wow.
Because teeth are important.
Yeah, teeth are so important.
You're stalling. By the way,
but I'm just thinking of Catholic dentists who have been wonderful to me and my teeth.
you know the patron
yeah.
saint of teeth and dentists?
Who is the patron saint of teeth and dentists?
Saint Apollonia.
Ooh.
She was martyred.
just fun to say.
She was martyred and had all of her teeth knocked out by the Romans. Ooh. Yeah. Yeah. So,
Saint Apollonia.
Answer the question.
I'm just trying to dodge, man.
all right. So, I know this is a little bit of a Pharisaical question, kind of the same thing that they tried to pull on Jesus on who's, but it's a valid marriage.
In the kingdom, it is not so.
It's a valid marriage.
Yep.
He's presumed dead.
Yep.
The wife enters into a valid marriage. He comes back. How's that play out?
With Wilson.
I'm guessing Tom Hanks is pissed.
I don't know. Tom Hanks handled it pretty well.
He just goes back to the island.
Yeah, just, I'm going to live the rest of my life with Wilson. Think about that depression.
sad.
That
That's
is
so
really,
sad.
really, that's very sad. Poor Tom Hanks, man. Tom Hanks, if you're listening.
Come on down. We'll buy a meal and get
Yeah,
a hug.
man. And
Talk
I'll
through it.
listen to all of your woes, man.
right.
We'll pray together. And that's
Cry
tough. No,
together.
it's that's a very, very tough question. So obviously,
And I got to imagine that's happened before.
the marriage, I mean,
Not a lot, but yeah.
where do you
I
think
mean, you
all
think
these
about, like,
stories of deserted islands come from?
And sailors being
these-
gone and
and
presumed dead.
shipwrecked and and people move on. People move on.
As they should.
Yeah. But it doesn't change the validity of the marriage.
So is that an instance of valid Catholic?
Yeah, under the presumption of death, it clearly, and there, there was rituals done in Tom Hanks' case, right? And then, like there was a burial, there was, So I mean, there is a clear openness for this person, this woman, to get married.
That's right.
So the conflict comes in recognizing that there still is an outstanding bond created between Tom Hanks and his wife.
I think it was Helen Hunt.
Helen Hunt.
Yeah, it was.
Helen Hunt, man. Whew.
Yeah, beautiful lady.
Beautiful lady.
But
I'm allowed to say that. I'm a celibate guy.
That made it hurt more.
Oh,
Yeah.
buddy.
Yeah, and
Yeah, dude.
but Helen Hunt's been,
dagger.
she's a polygamist,
Dentist.
a Catholic polygamist now in this scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How would I pastorally guide that situation?
That's right.
Woo-wee.
Somebody has
Let's
to
just
take
go
a
back
hike.
to the Old Testament.
Somebody has to take a hike.
Yeah, but taking a hike doesn't remove the validity of the marriage.
Oh no, I was.
it's ex
speaking
operato
emotively.
operare.
Oh yeah, the hot-blooded Italian Ryan Delacroix. What are you going to do when you
He's
come
like,
back
hey,
and you see your
he's
wife
like, hey,
with another man?
Yeah, hey Tom Hanks, hit the brakes. Helen's mine now.
Yeah, man. I mean, that is a clear case for therapy, counsel, and figuring out
For canon lawyers.
to figure out. I spent a couple of semesters in canon law.
If we got any canon lawyers listening,
I know. Yeah,
Hey,
like
be
let's
nice
go
to-
call.
I'm gonna give a shout out to Father Eddie. Father Eddie, I know you're gonna probably watch this and you're a canonist. If you can answer this,
Yeah,
Give me-
man.
give me a
'Cause I
call.
think this is the one where my head chopped off.
got
man.
him.
one
Yeah,
for,
you got me.
We're like 1 for 5 now.
Yeah,
1 for
I
4.
mean, my presumption and my inclination is to say that the bond that is still living between Tom Hanks and Helen Hunt is the valid marriage, and now this new bond, it doesn't stand in the light of an existing bond that was created. So that's my inclination.
It lacked form.
but did it?
It didn't lack form.
It didn't.
It lacked freedom.
That's right.
So, which is an impediment.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I think we're gonna give him about an 8 out of 10 on answering
8 out
that,
of
but I still think we stumped him a little bit.
I mean that's a great pastoral dilemma.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's very good.
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, we're coming up
Ryan
with some
Scheel, brilliant.
Got him.
Brilliant.
All right, I think
All right,
that,
it's been a
that
good
wraps up
podcast,
this
man.
episode. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good episode. I liked it.
That's good. Thank you guys for listening in and watching. If you're watching us on YouTube,
Yeah, and-
CatholicTalkShow.com.
Yeah, go to CatholicTalkShow.com. Make sure you subscribe, comment below. Let us know what we did good, what we didn't do good.
Send us your feedback and your questions.
Got any questions for the Inquisition for Father Rich? Let us know. If you got any ideas for episodes or things you'd like us to talk about, let us know. And
Yeah.
make sure you listen next week.
Yep.
See you next week. Ciao, ciao.